you speak about your parents? Were they supportive of you becoming a wrestler?
Yeah, my dad was how I actually got involved in wrestling. Well, not involved, but my love for wrestling came from my father. My first experience of watching TV, my earliest memory of watching television. It's not Bugs Bunny, it's not the Flintstones. My earliest memory of watching television is watching pro wrestling with my father. I mean, talking about 3 or 4 years old. And at 5, I went to my first wrestling event with my father in Charlotte, North Carolina. So my dad, I don't think, nobody really thought I was going to make it as far as I did, but they were definitely behind the idea of me pursuing my dream.
Cool. All right, I heard you mention you was part of the ring crew at 13. Can you name some of the things you did back then to break in? I heard you mention like 1 or 2. You didn't really say a lot.
Yeah, I would I would help set up the ring, sweep the floors when it was over. I was a couple times I was the ring boy that carried the jackets from the ring. Actually, I made it on America's Funniest Home Videos one time because one of the wrestlers busted his ass falling down the steps, and I was sitting there looking at him, just shaking my head. I would just, at that time I was 13 years old when I first got involved in an independent company, so I would just do anything they needed me to do just so that I could have some ring time whenever I could, play in the ring whenever it allowed.
So what were your thoughts when you was doing these things, paying these dues, and when you was 13?
I mean, pro wrestling was all I ever wanted to do, so it was nothing I ever thought that was beneath me or that belittled me. I just thought it was a step in the right direction. As long as I got to play in the ring and use my mind, because I trained myself. I was never officially trained by anybody. So I used my mind to train myself. As long as you get to put me in a ring, I taught myself how to run the ropes, which is very hard for a lot of people to learn. Yeah. That's a very tricky thing to do. It looks easy.
I did it before, I know.
Okay, then know it's not the easiest thing in the world.
No, it's not.
Anything that would allow me the opportunity to get into the ring, I would do.
All right, you said at 16 you had your first match. So how exactly did you finally get your break to work after paying these dues?
Some guy didn't show up. Another guy didn't show up at the match. They were short-handed. I had my gear, and by gear I mean that I had my singlet that I wore as an amateur wrestler, and some socks pulled up to my knees and amateur wrestling shoes. So it wasn't aesthetically. I didn't look that cool at that particular point in time, but it worked. I was a very small guy. I was kid vicious for the early part of my career, and it kind of fit the name because I was just so small, but it worked.
So who put the bug in your ear to work that day?
Say again?
Who mentioned to you that you was going to work that day when the person
I was riding with a friend that was on the show. He was a worker, and he was booked to be on the show. A guy named Jerry, and he mentioned to the promoters, like, well, I mean, if you don't have nobody, I got this kid here, and he's really good. He does some stuff that you probably haven't seen before. And this was 1991. There's no cruiserweight division. There's no Hardy Boys. There's no Rey Mysterios. And I was a guy out there that could do moonsaults and, tilt the warhead scissors and stuff like that, which the American audience wasn't accustomed to. And so they put me in the ring, and that was it. My very first match, I mean, as arrogantly as it sounds, I stole the show in my very first match.
Cool. All right. You talked about your amateur career. Can you speak about it a little bit?
Yeah, I didn't even know about amateur wrestling. Amateur wrestling didn't lead into pro wrestling for me. Pro wrestling led to my amateur career.
Really?
Yeah, because I went to high school and I heard they had a wrestling team. All I'd ever seen in my life was pro wrestling. I didn't watch the Olympics, I didn't know anything that amateur wrestling.
So how old were you when you started?
13.
No, amateur.
13.
Really?
Yeah. My amateur career and my pro career started
almost at the same time.
Yeah, I was a freshman in high school. I went out for the team. I made varsity my first year. I went all state my first year. I just had a natural affinity for wrestling.
So it wasn't too far apart, basically.
No, I started pro wrestling. Like I said, I started amateur wrestling my 9th grade year, and the summer of that year I started. I got involved with a pro company.
All right, I heard you mention you grew up hard and liked to fight. Can you elaborate on that?
Not that I like to fight. I'm not gonna say I like to do it, but it was just something that happened. My earliest memories of childhood, we were the only white family in an all-black trailer park, and so.
Where, North Carolina?
North Carolina, yeah. The trailer park was the Alpine Village, which I mean, that just sounds pretty tough anyway. And it's just, I mean, it's just how it was. You know, it wasn't like, it's not like I fought every day, but you know, I mean, we were definitely the outsiders of that little community, and I mean, you know, shit happens, and you either. I'm a big supporter of the "Don't Be a Bully" campaign. I understand that, but I'm also a bigger supporter of the "Don't Be a Little Bitch" campaign.
Yeah.
At some point in your life, you're going to have to fight. And it's not about winning and losing. I didn't win every fight, but I had to stand up for myself, and I think that kind of molded me into the person I became. Don't be a bitch.
All right. You don't know exactly when you hurt your back. I heard you say that the doc told you could have had that already 4 months when you found out.
Oh, no,
about
not my back, that was my neck. I had a spinal
your
fusion.
neck.
It was at C6 and 7 in my neck. I don't think there was one traumatic event that broke my neck. Just, you know, I started, you know, competing in a hard ring at 13 years old. Not competing, but bumping at 13. And I had a 7-year amateur career, which is pretty tough on your body. Nowhere near as tough on your body as a professional career is, but the spinal fusion happened in 2007. I started my pro career in 1991, so it was just, pro wrestling ain't easy on your body, you know, no matter what people think about it. You know, the naysayers is predetermined and it's fake and all this kind of nonsense, but you tear your body apart. And, you know, I think my body just needed a vacation, and that's how it happened.
Yeah, I heard you say that you had a pain in your arm and that Benoit told you that to check your neck or whatever.
Yeah, I was, when you have a spinal injury.
So that was the first time you felt it? Like you realized
No, I was
something?
having pains in different areas of my body. Like when you have a spinal injury, the spinal column controls everything. The spinal fluids, and you know, this controls everything. My legs would ache one day, and the next day maybe it was my arms.
Yeah.
I was getting a lot of seizing in my traps. I would have to take muscle relaxers just to relax my trap because it would seize up, and I couldn't like pull my arm down, and I was getting checked out. It wasn't like I was ignoring these things, you know. We would get x-rays on my back and stuff like that, and my arms, you know, if it was my arm, I was like, I need to get my shoulder checked out. And we would get that checked out, and just nothing was showing up because I never felt pain in my neck.
Yeah.
And but you talking about Benoit, I was doing push-ups before a match, and on my 4th push-up, I literally could not push up off the floor, and it was like I was straining so hard, and I wasn't in pain. It was the, to give you an example, it's like being on a bench. If you bench press and you can't push it up anymore, you know, you just maxed out or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just like, what in the fuck is going on? I know I could do more than 4 push-ups.
Yeah.
I mean, and I just couldn't get up off the floor, and I got up and I couldn't flex my tricep. Like I could move my arm, but it wouldn't constrict or contract, wouldn't flex and get hard. And Benoit was there, you know, he's chewing on his little coffee stirrers that he chewed on constantly, and he's like, it's your neck, because it was the same thing he went through. And I still wrestled that night. I think I wrestled twice the next day because we did like 2 double shots. And we had a TV on Monday in Baltimore, and I went and got an MRI. They did 2 MRIs. The first one on my neck, the second one on my back. So they did the one on my neck first. By the time I was done on my back, they're already scheduling my surgery because of how
Yeah, I
bad
heard
my
you
neck
talk
was.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, this is so bad, we got to get you, like, you know, something really bad is going to happen if we don't get you fixed.
So when you were told you were injured, was it mentioned to you that you would never wrestle again or anything like that?